Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, High Commissioners, Permanent Representatives, Mr. Ketak, Lin, Secretary General of IMO, and leading stakeholders in the maritime industry, distinguished delegates, and all of you, my brothers and sisters. I wish on behalf of the Council for Promoting Integral Human Development to convey our sincerest gratitude to all of you seafarers involved in the rights of seafarers and fishers. Our sincerest sentiments of gratitude for organizing this conference, this event, during which you wish to discuss the challenges that seafarers face, especially during this period of COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic is now referred to as global because it's affected the whole world. It has caused the closure of airports, border crossings, and several other related communication points between nations and between peoples. However, this was not the case for the maritime industry. Vessels continued to crisscross the oceans, transporting necessary goods for manufacturing and for the daily life of several of our populations and people, including the transportation of medical equipment and during this period of the pandemic. So the travel limitations prevented crew changes, and for this reason, then about 400,000 of seafarers or people working on the sea were stranded on the sea in boats and employed and then had to suffer the greatest inconvenience of having their employment period extended indefinitely sometimes, with a consequent increase of personnel fatigue, and the possibility even in some cases of occupational accidents. Furthermore, because of the cancellation of shore leave and limited port entries for ships, visitors, the seafarers on board of some of the vessels suffered isolation, severe physical and moral and mental stress that brought very many crew members on the verge, as it were, of severe psychological, psychosomatic sicknesses and diseases. All of this, however, meant that though we recognize that the situation is slowly changing, it is not quite changed to the point that we would wish to desire, but we still deplore and wish to, on occasion of your conference over here, draw attention to precisely these challenges and recognize the sacrifices that very many of these seafarers have made, and appeal therefore to international organizations, unions, ship owners, and faith-based groups especially, to recognize seafarers as key workers who have taken the necessary steps so that the changes could be effected and could be expedited, including the vaccination of the very many involved in this industry, if not even making this a top priority. These facts are revealing an intrinsic weakness in the maritime industry, and though it is highly globalized and protection of the seafarers' rights is also recognized, but it's essentially also very fragmented between numerous players acting to protect different interests who often are not accountable to any higher regulatory authority. We would wish then, on behalf of this dicastery, to renew our appeal, as it were, to the international organizations, the national maritime authorities, and the leaders of the millions of the leaders of the maritime industry to join hands and to act as one in facing what has been defined as humanitarian crisis at sea. This time not on land, but at sea, involving seafarers, and so putting an end to this unfair treatment of seafarers. Let us then stop ignoring the seafarers and disregarding their human and working rights, and commit to declaring them as key workers to facilitate their traveling and access to vaccination and other health care and well-being assistance. Because, as Pope Francis has said on the 19th of in July 2019 already, to the participants of the European meeting of the Seafarers, without seafarers, then our global economy will simply come to a standstill. And in full recognition of the value and the great worth of these seafarers and their big contribution to our life, our well-being, our industry, and different forms of activity, we want to invite all of you at this conference to vigorously engage in awakening consciences about the role and experience of seafarers, and to advocate also for their well-being with the different organizations so that they continue to serve humanity the way they've been doing, despite all the sacrifice that it implies. And so we just wish to wish your conference great success, and pray that all who would address this conference and all who would have occasion to share thoughts and ideas with you at this conference do so inspired by the Holy Spirit, and enable all of you to come to fruitful and decisive conclusions at the end of this. So our prayerful wishes accompany you, and may God bless your conference.